Hello, adventuresses. So, I am here today with Uta and Heather, our two lovely podcast hosts. And today is a very fun topic, riding with your spouse, or maybe not riding in some of your guys' case. I'm super excited to talk about this. I know we have a few interesting questions to dive in. And before we kind of jump in too much, if you are joining us live, I would love if you can just comment in the chat where in the world you are watching from. So I can see like everyone's comments and stuff. So just let me know in the chat like where you guys are watching from. So thank you, Heather and Uta, for joining me today.
Hi, Crystal. Hi, Uta.
Hi, Heather. Hi, Crystal. So glad to be here today. And my internet seems to be fairly good tonight. So I hope that's going to last.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I know last week we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but yeah, today it looks like it's going to be good. So I know we all have different husband situations. So maybe we just give a little bit of brief about all of our situations, and that way we can, have a little bit of backstory to go with what we're talking about.
Sure. So I have the rookie husband who's ridden a horse a handful of times. If we've been on a holiday where you can go and rent a horse for an hour and go on a trail ride, he's done that. I do, and I'm not sure if he's watching this or not, but he's funny because the last time we went, the horse trotted a little bit, and then he was telling all his friends how he was like galloping through the mountains, and I was like, okay. So he's really a beginner. So it is interesting sometimes if he's trying to help me. It is a challenge because sometimes his help isn't the type of help I need. Now, Uta, your husband is a regular rider, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like my husband has been riding before we met. He has been involved with horses. He played polo. He has done trail rides before. He's really done a lot of riding. He's had a lot of experience with horses before. But of course, a very different experience from what I had because I grew up in Germany. He grew up in India. So you can imagine it's been really different.
So we do have a couple of people joining us live. So just make sure to comment in the chat, one, where you're from, and then also comment like if your husbands ride or don't ride, like what's the deal there. So yeah, just comment in the chat there if your husbands ride or they don't ride, or if you want them to ride. And yes, so for me, I think a lot of you guys might have seen my husband, Christian. If you follow our YouTube channel at all, we did our ride together across Ireland, and he's also kind of appeared in our little Equestrian Adventuresses documentary series from time to time. So you'll definitely have seen him on our YouTube channel. I will say, though, that Christian is a little bit of behind the scenes. So, Equestrian Adventuresses has a whole lot of moving parts, and Christian helps out with a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So shout out here to Christian, maybe comment and give Christian a little bit of love because he definitely does a lot of stuff for Equestrian Adventuresses. I think he has sometimes more like women empowerment bones in his body than I do. So he's a lot of fun. But Christian, he was not a horse rider when I met him. And actually that was a big reason why I was not going to date him. I was using that as my excuse. But he was very determined to ride horses and or date me, probably both. And so he started taking lessons with me, and I am, a certified coach and trainer. That's what I was traveling and doing professionally. So lucky him, he got a lot of riding lessons, and also unlucky him because I'm pretty strict. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, he's traveled a lot with Equestrian Adventuresses and with me, and he rides horses. He has his own horsey now, Mrs. Q, and he loves her to death. And whenever we would travel, he kind of starts complaining about the horses that he's riding because he just wants to ride Q. So anyways, that's my husband's situation. And so Heather, I know you have a few interesting topics about this. So why don't you go ahead and kick it off?
So the first one is my partner isn't a rider. What should I be doing, or what are some tips that I can do to encourage him to ride, or get him to that level where we can confidently go out on our own adventures where he's feeling confident?
So I think like with a lot of sports and hobbies, I mean, they have to have some interest. Like, you can't make somebody do something that they genuinely aren't interested in. And especially when it comes to horses, like a lot of beginners, they'll kind of come, especially when you work at like a trail riding place or something, you'll get a lot of people that are all talk. And then as soon as they get on the horse, it's like suddenly their eyes can't cope with how far away the ground is. And like, you know what I mean? And then like things are moving and stuff is happening out of their control. So, you know, they have to have some kind of love and passion for it, definitely. But I think honestly, like the biggest thing is, if you're just talking about it all the time, at some point they're going to be curious. And you can go ahead and strap them on and see what happens. But I think the best thing that I could say is like give them a fun experience, because we get addicted to like the fun. So if they have fun, like don't just try and like, I don't know, teach them how to do everything correct and proper the first 5 minutes. Like they have to have fun as well. So take them somewhere, like do something fun and really try and make them see what's so amazing about it, like why we love it. That's definitely what I would say.
That's a now Uta, how when with your husband being, you know, more of a higher level rider, does he kind of critique your riding when you're out, or how does that work?
No, I guess we respect each other. So he respects the way I work with horses. I respect his work around horses. So, and I think this is really, really important if you have a spouse which has experience with horses or who is a rider as well, and who like both of you kind of might have difference of opinions, maybe different of riding styles. I think respect is the single most important item here. So if you respect each other and you can kind of maybe, you know, if you agree to disagree, I always say. So like, okay, you do your things your way, I do my things my way. So I think this is the only way it works. Otherwise you'll fight, and you know, that can ruin every relationship and can take away all the fun from riding. So I think it's really important to have this mutual respect for each other, to really recognize each other. Of course, go about to maybe tactfully mention a few things to each other, like, you know, if particularly if your partner may have started riding and might not be really up to your level yet. So you can, of course, give him a couple of tips or hints, but do it in a very respectful way. Don't, as Crystal has mentioned, like, it should be fun, right? And it's not very fun if your partner criticizes you from first minute he's sitting on the horse till the end of the ride. You know, that's just not fun anymore. So say something if you really feel it's helpful and it's friendly, but don't overdo it, right?
I totally agree. You know, I did find that when my kids were learning to ride, that if we went out and the whole lesson was keep your heels down, pull your shoulders back, sit up, if it was always critiquing, then, you know, they were really losing the fun side of it, where it was work. It wasn't, you know, it was no longer, you know, just something to do for pleasure. It became, you know, like a job, and not, you know, the fun factor was left. The next question that we had, you know, riding with your spouse, if your spouse is interested, because obviously they have to be interested, you know, to have to make them want to do it. But if they aren't, it's still okay. So the question of, you know, riding with your spouse versus riding with your friends, you know, is it a girl thing where you want to just go out with your girlfriends, or what are your, you know, do you prefer to ride with your husband or prefer to ride with your friends?
So for me, it's fun. I think like it's always fun riding with others in general. I know some of the best friendships I've formed has been like when I'm out in the middle of, I don't know, Mongolia, and there's like no people for hundreds of miles, and it's like just us and horses. Mm-hmm. So I think that's partly why like Equestrian Adventures, like the bonds you make when you're on horseback are very mm-hmm. strong. And you talk about everything. Like if you have a 5 hours ride and you're doing it for 5 days, like there's nothing you're gonna like keep secrets from. So I enjoy both. I love riding with friends and I love riding with my husband, and it's a lot of fun. Sometimes I think because I've been in the industry for so long and I was always working with horses, sometimes it's fun seeing things from my husband's perspective, because he's still like fascinated by stuff that I'm a little bit bored of, like when he's riding his horse and she does whatever thing and it just blows his mind and he's like, oh my God, she's so amazing. Like, look at my amazing horse. Like, isn't this just like the most amazing thing ever? And I just it makes me like, yeah, you're right. Like, that is pretty cool, like, or when we have a gallop in a field or, whatever it is. We once here in Germany, we found like a little log. This guy was actually chainsawing the trees as like we were coming out of the forest, and our horses didn't even care about the chainsaws, but they saw this little log and both of them, like their ears were like, we're jumping that. and so we just like popped over this log and we did it a few times. And, I probably wouldn't have thought much of it had I been on my own, but like, because my husband was there and it was like a fun thing we did together, like suddenly it was just like 10 times more fun probably. So yeah.
Well, I think that sensation of popping over the log, you've gone over hundreds of jumps, so you totally knew what to expect. Whereas, somebody with not as much experience isn't going to know what that feeling is, because, we've all seen that where, there's like a little puddle where they have to, they treat it like it's an ocean where they leap over it like it's this grand body of water, or even a little twig where they almost levitate over top of it. And it's that sensation that I think is what gives us the thrill. So we hope that they will get that thrill as well.
Definitely.
So the next question I had was about, the kind of the spouse guilt that comes with riding, whether if your spouse is not a rider, and you're wanting to spend time with your horse or go for rides, those kind of things, just managing that, because, it is a give and take with all relationships. There's going to be times where they want to, watch a car race or go to, Home Depot or something like that, right? Whereas you're like, I would just rather go, ride my horse around in circles. But finding that balance, and I think, Ucha, you said it really well. It's finding a balance between, what you like, what they like, and not having to feel guilty.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's really important. And what is interesting? I mean, I've seen plenty of couples also riding with me. Mostly the women, of course, is a more expert rider, and the husband is, or the boyfriend might not be such an expert rider. But most of these couples, they really said they want to do something together. They want to have some together time. And even I've seen some of these. Okay, I come to ride with you when you come on a motorcycle tour with me thing, this kind of give and take, okay, I join you for riding, I'll take up lessons and I join you for this riding vacation. And you learn how to motorbike, and you sit with me on the motorbike, and we do a tour through Rajasthan and things like that. So I found that kind of idea of sharing quality time together, and tit for tat kind of thing. So that's really lovely.
So we have a comment from Carrie. She says, husbands are awesome, but girls' trips are different, and I need both. Connecting with your spouse is wonderful and fulfilling, and trips with my girlfriends fill my soul with laughter. Talks about nothing to everything. I love them both. So thank you, Carrie, for sharing with us. And make sure, to comment again in the chat there. This is live. So if you guys have any questions or things as well, be sure to comment and let us know.
I like that comment of it fills your soul, because there is, when you go on an adventure, especially if you go on an adventure in another country, you don't really know what's going to be around that bend. And, when you're with your girlfriends and you're laughing about your celebrity boyfriend that you have, or, oh my goodness, I can't believe we drank so much wine last night, or, all of those kind of things. It really does. It refreshes you. It is just good for mental health. We've had a really long go this past year with, the challenges that are in the world, and, sitting on a horse does something. I don't know if it's the energy that comes from the horse that makes us, feel better, but whether we're riding with our spouse or with our girlfriends or our friends, it really is just an all around goodness.
Definitely. And I know before we jumped on live, Heather, I know you were mentioning a few funny points as well, which, I think this is worth addressing, is like that balance, like you said, of how do you go on a ride with each other and not get a divorce at the end of it. I know Christian and I, when we were riding around Ireland, we definitely had a couple of days, usually like, Ireland is famous for the rain, and we had a few days where it hailed on us as well. And we were long riding, and we didn't know where we were going to stay every night. And like we stayed in a tent, and which for me is like, ugh. And so we're wet, and everything is wet, and the horses are wet, and we're tent like, oh, it's everything. And after a while, after a couple of months, definitely we had some days. And I remember there was a day where Christian, he's Mr. Sunshine. Like anyone who's seen him, and I know Heather and Uta, you guys talked to him and stuff. Like he is my opposite in many ways. He is very bubbly, very sunshiny. Like he never says anything negative about anyone. Like he's just Mr. Perfect. And here he was, like packing the tent, and it's all wet, and he's like slamming, and he's like grumbling, and making this little like tantrum. Basically, it was a mantrum, and it was actually, I mean, for me, I was kind of secretly laughing because I've never seen him do that before. But we definitely saw like kind of sides to each other that we wouldn't have experienced had we not been in this like crazy adventure. So yeah, I don't know if you guys also have some stories or tips about that, but I wanted to mention.
Well, my husband and I, if we ever go on a long road trip, it never fails. If you were trapped inside a vehicle with somebody, there's going to be
at some point you're going to argue.
Yeah, it's like you turn the air. Why is it so cold in here? I have to go to the bathroom, and so. But I do think it's it is something that you can do with your spouse. There's lots of opportunities for simple things, to get into riding. If you want to take some lessons or go on a trail ride, there's so many places that you can go, even if it's just for an hour ride, to kind of, dip their toe into how awesome horses are and those kind of things. So that, that would be my advice. Start small. Don't get their trucks dirty. If you take their truck, make sure you bring it back with gas and, not too much horse smell inside.
Well, I mean, I'm usually the one who brings, who puts gas in the car, and my husband is the one who drives it down to almost zero. So that definitely doesn't work for us.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. So yeah, this was a lot of fun talking about riding with spouses or friends. I know, that was kind of a thing that was important to me, was like I needed a husband that would at some point be around horses. So that was part of my list. But yeah, I know not everyone has horsey husbands. So yeah, it's definitely been interesting to hear from you guys, like in the chat and in the messages.
Perfect. Well, I hope to get my husband out riding more this year. That's my goal, to take him from rookie to beginner. That's my goal. So and maybe get him on a horse that he can, have a canter and feel that, with trotting is not a gallop. So.
I will say, when Christian was terrified of cantering, absolutely terrified. This was probably the biggest fights we've ever had in our relationship, was trying to get him to canter for the first time. And but once he learned how to canter and he was safe and everything, and then he started galloping, oh my goodness, that's all he wants to do now is gallop. That's why I bought him a thoroughbred. So yeah, I would say as soon as they experience it, I think, as adrenaline junkie as most men are, I think it's hard to break that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I realized that most men are actually pretty good at riding. As I said, like my experience with couples always is like the girl knows she knows the ropes, right? And the guy kind of tags along. But he often, if he does it like more than once, if he has been on horseback more than once, he's actually fairly good, because a lot of men, if they're a little bit sportive, they have a really good feeling for the body and they're not scared, right? So women usually think about, what can go wrong, what can happen, and guys just sit on the horse and say, okay, the horse is not going to kill itself, so I trust it, and I go along, and usually they do pretty good.
Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah, very true. It's annoying but true.
Yes, there's no
Indeed,
fear.
sometimes it is annoying.
No fear.
We have a question also from Carrie. How do I make my husband slow down? A steer wrestler. Oh my goodness. Okay, there's no saving your husband. Sorry.
No, it's their full
Not
speed
possible.
ahead. Nobody wants to go for a jaunty, full speed ahead.
Yeah, I think that's hard to break. And I guess Uche, you probably again have more stories about this, but my brief experience with trail guiding was basically that. It was like every man that got on the horse was like, when are we galloping?
Yeah,
like here,
exactly.
this is a good spot. Like, no, this is the like cliff face. Like, no. I will tell
This
you
doesn't
when we
work.
can
Yeah.
gallop.
Exactly. Okay, can we gallop now? Okay, 5 minutes later, can we gallop now?
Yeah.
Or
pretty
in
much.
India, people ask, like, can we make the horses run? No, we cannot make the horses run, but let's
Right.
see, I might let you do a little trot.
Yeah.
That's indeed. I mean, most guys are this adrenaline junkies, and yeah, I mean, if you make them do it, they're usually pretty good at it. So that's really annoying sometimes.
Yeah, I would say carry a whip, not for the horse, but maybe to smack him around if needed.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I carry the stick to smack them on the head if they get too annoying.
Exactly.
We'll add that to our list of packing items for our saddlebag, a little twitch that, hey, slow down.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us live today, or if you're joining us with a replay still, let us know in the chat what other topics you would like to hear for next week. And yeah, goodbye everyone, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.